My name is George Ho. I'm an artist based in Taiwan. And I'm also a bars facilitator. I think I got the idea of incorporating bars sessions into my exhibition from the years I've been doing running bars here in Taiwan, and seeing that it's still limited to the metaphysical community or the alternative healing community here. And I was wondering what would be an interesting way to introduce the bars, the access bars, to a completely different crowd of people. And since I'm my main line of work is being a visual artist, and I had this opportunity to do this exhibition at the Museum of Contemporary Art in Taipei. This section of the museum where they invited me to a show was for more experimental work, and so I build this this project as a very experimental kind of work. It's a performance art, so to speak, and they bought it. So okay, sure, this running bars can be a piece of performance art. And I expressly asked them, the museum people, that is, that when they have people sign up for these sessions, that they are first time bars receivers, that they're I of course I was like announcing my show to my friends in the bar circles, the access consciousness circles here, but I didn't want them to like sign up for these sessions to get a free bar session from me. I really want this to go out to people who's never had it. So they're literally all first timers, and I got very different feedback from them, because they are so new to it. And like 2 weeks before my show opened, all the bars session appointments were all booked up. So it was it's very interesting that people's never heard of it, like we're going for it. But the one day there was a no-show. And in fact the second runner-up wasn't available either. So I literally, like, and there were quite a few people walking around seeing the other paintings. So I literally just like spoke up into the crowd and said, hey, we have a no-show, and would anybody like to try it? And somebody just said, okay, I'll do it. And so that was great that way. And he had no idea. That person had no idea what he was getting into. So, but he got a good, I think he got a good session of it. If someone were to ask me what is it like to walk through, to describe someone walking through my exhibition while I'm running bars, I would say half the time people walking in the room first thought that I and the participant or the receiver of the bars were wax figures, because we were so motionless. And so of course I wouldn't even I wouldn't attempt to move so that they know that I'm alive or I'm not a real person. So I just do what I do, and I'll be really still. And if I at some point if that person walking through the room is still staying in the room while I change to the next bar's position, and then that's when they notice that, oh, I'm actually not a wax figure, and the person on the massage table is not a wax figure, then they usually look very startled, and they're like, what's going on here? I think when you run the bars, it's not just something that's between the bar's giver and the bar's receiver. There is an energy in that space, and I do perceive a calmness. I mean, after the initial shock that these people think that I was a wax figure, but after that, usually there's a people walking through have a sense of calm, compared with what I remember from going to other museum shows, that is. Another thing that I find very interesting about this particular experience of showing at the Taipei Museum of Fine Arts is that it really is from start to finish completely created from using Access tools. This is maybe a little bit more advanced because, even though this is Global Bars Day, but I do want to mention that one of the things that as you go into more advanced classes in Access, we're going to talk about being a futurist and about pulling energy and about pulling the future in, and you where you are now, you being the future. And so when I was creating the paintings, I asked for the future space of the show to be as my studio space and create from that space. At first, the museum was very apprehensive about the way I set up my show, because there's one room with the bars, massage table, and with framed paintings around the room. And then there was a second room where I made this installation of free hanging paintings that are set up almost like a maze for people to walk through. And the museum administration was really afraid that when they have children in the museum, they're going to want to pull it, touch it, gonna play with it, and maybe destroy the art. But it never I think maybe there's something with being the space of bars, and that most kids, at least as far as I know, were so well behaved in the space that that it was never a problem with the free hanging artwork and having people walk through. If I were to describe the difference between what I perceive as an exhibition with the bars taking place in the space and an exhibition without bars, I would say a sense of time is different. What I have mentioned maybe previously that that people experience a sense of calm, and I wonder if that sense of calm also is related to maybe in that room when the bars is occurring, that the perception of time is different in that space. Because usually in other museum shows that I go to, I think there's a everybody has an agenda about what they want to view, and then that sense that, okay, these people, they want to go at this pace, these people want to go at that pace, and they're going around the room making sure that they take in everything, and in a particular order. But here, I would almost describe as people swimming in the space. It's like people are like in a underwater kind of space, and people are just like floating through. It's kind of an interesting observation, I thought.